Okay, so in this tutorial, what we're going to do is we're going to go over some demos in the Agentcore Gateway. Once again, I'm using PyCharm development environment. I am using Agentcore Gateway sample programs provided by Amazon, and I'm just going through this particular folder and this notebook I have here, the Jupyter notebook, and I'm going to execute the code and see what this sample provides us. In the process, we're going to learn Agentcore and how the Agentcore gateway in this particular demo calls Lambda functions and uses how we can use Lambda functions in Agentcore to call tools and things like that. So what we want to do is first take a look at our folder and see what we're dealing with here. Okay, so we have an images folder, and we have two notebooks. One uses IAM and one uses OAuth. So it's convenient that both of these notebooks are in the same folder. One of the points and observations I have is that the images are pretty much showing you both use cases with IAM and OAuth. Okay, there seems to be a Lambda code zip. I don't know if I produced that when I ran the code last time or it was already there. There's a README file and there's a requirements file and there's a Python code which is a streamable HTTP SIG v4 file, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. So looking at the notebook, first of all, what the notebook wants, oh, this is nice, I like this. The notebook is now referencing, let me see how many images the notebook is referencing, because we have a situation here where the notebook is documenting properly, and it's using some of the images. So the bottom line is that and this is describing what the notebook is doing. Okay, so first we're going to look at this IAM example, and we're going to take a look at the architecture and some of the descriptions, and then we're going to take a look at some of the files and try to figure out whether we can learn as much as possible using this folder about Agentcore and using the gateway and Lambda and MCP, etc. Okay, so let's first take a look at this really quickly. We're transforming our AWS Lambda function into a secure MCP tools with Bedrock Agentcore Gateway. Okay, that's not the way I really see it. It's sort of like we're using MCP to call Lambda. The Lambda is calling some tools. Let's take a look at the code, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, but Agentcore Gateway provides customers a way to run and turn their existing AWS Lambda functions into fully managed MCP servers without needing to manage infrastructure or hosting. Fantastic. Okay, the gateway will provide a uniform model context protocol interface across all these tools. Fantastic. Okay, the gateway employs a dual authentication model to ensure secure access. This is very important. Access both for the incoming requests and the outbound connections. Okay, so we look at this diagram, okay, and what it's doing is I have an agent, and they're calling this an MCP client, and we're using MCP to call Agentcore Gateway. And what we're saying here is that it's using IAM, and it's putting the credentials and assigned request to call Agentcore. You need permissions as a client to call this gateway. Then, once you call the gateway, you need permissions, let's say a gateway IAM role, to invoke this Lambda, which I'm interpreting as some tools, okay? So keep in mind that there is two levels of security here. And let's see, the last demo I went through, it used my credentials on my platform for the IAM. My credentials in my credentials file on my Mac have credentials, the administrator credentials to call AWS. And it uses those to call Agentcore. Now, I'm going to look at this demo and see if it does the same thing, but let's assume it does. And then I expect the code to be creating this role to call this Lambda, giving Agentcore the permissions to call this Lambda. And this Lambda, let's take a look at this Lambda and its tools to see what this Lambda is doing, if it's using strands tools to decorate some functions. I don't know. We have to look at that. So the bottom line is AWS IAM is used for inbound auth. Authorize on checking, invoking the gateway and the gateway ARN. Okay, so this, I think this is clear enough. And the question is why do we have to look at this MCP stuff? We're used to looking at APIs and not MCP. Well, the bottom line is MCP is helping us discover which tool I need to do my work, which Lambda do I need to call, etc., etc. Let's take a look at it with fine detail here. Okay, so we're connecting the call to the gateway and the call to the back end. And notice this agent. This agent is helping the user. This agent is calling this. This Lambda has some tools, and these tools can be used for what authorized, but authorizing the agent to call them, while we authorizing the user that's calling the agent. So we're going to take a look at that real quick. Okay, so there's a concept here of inbound and outbound, just so you know, whether it's virtual or not. Okay, the tutorial details. It's using an LLM model. It's called why are we looking at Claude and Nova Pro? We'll take a look at that. We're looking at the Agentcore Gateway, Strands Agents, AWS Lambda. Inbound is IAM. Outbound is IAM. Sample complexity is easy, great. And we're using Bodo 3. Okay, so now it does describe the tutorial architecture, and it will transform operations defined in the Lambda function into MCP tools and host in Bedrock Agentcore Gateway. And we're demonstrating Ingress using IAM and the AWS SIG v4 header, and the Strands agent using Amazon Bedrock models. And we have two tools called Get Order and Update Order, according to this. Okay, so now it's telling us how to configure gateway request, and notice there's access keys here, and there's a default region here. Let's just run this to see what happens. Because, like I said, I think I'm assuming that it's going to use my local credentials in my .aws folder on my Mac, and it's going to use an IAM role for the outbound, which is just the Lambda role to execute. And the outbound, I don't know how outbound this is right now. The tools are probably in the Lambda. Let's take a look. But let's just run this. Okay, so now it looks like it's installing a kernel package, and but the bottom line is we're running in a notebook, so it has to fire up the notebook and then do some installation. So what I see down here is that something's getting fired up, a notebook kernel is starting, and the install can't happen. And well, let's just see what happens here. Um, it installed the kernel packages, and now it's trying to start it, I guess. And notice it I don't know what happened here. It doesn't look like this is checked, so it didn't install. It stopped installing. It's waiting for the notebook. You see, now it's installing the packages. So this is unfortunately this is taking a little time. My Mac is a little slow. However, what we're doing right now is learning Agentcore Gateway using a Jupyter Notebook in my PyCharm development environment, using Amazon folders and code, and I'm hoping I don't have to modify anything. So that is what I'm trying to do, and we're trying to record a demo, trying to demonstrate how to go through these files. And like I said, the prerequisite for this is that you clone this project, you install a PyCharm, it's for free. You make sure that the environment for the at the samples level folder is created, because all the installs for every single folder wind up going into this environment. So we have a Python environment, a virtual environment, and that's where we check. And as these install, we get these errors. Okay, so let's see what happened here. Okay, we got an error, which is not good. And I didn't get that last time, so that's new. I'm going to, let's see, trace back most recent, line 33 in module. Let me run it again. I don't really want to be using 3.12. I think I'm supposed to be using 3.14, but let's go back. Let's go to the terminal. Let's just run it again temporarily, just see what happens. I don't think I should have seen that error, because I think it was complaining about something which this project does not use. And so what I was hoping was to see this documentation and simplify looking at these architectural pictures, which is really good. But what I'm noticing is that some of the projects don't show this. And I don't know if it's a problem with my PyCharm or not, but what I usually do also is go over here under the images folder and look at the architecture for this folder. So while this is running, let's go do that. So the first thing I want to look at is this object, this image here. So what it says is I'm using MCP to call Agentcore Gateway, and I have a Lambda target, and there's a tool schema. And this uses an IAM role, and the Lambda has an event object, and the event object should match the tool schema, it says, and the Lambda context custom object has the endpoint ID, the tool name, the session ID, the target ID, and the message version, etc. So this is loosely speaking, all right. When you're using AI tools, there's a schema that matches to the Lambda, and so the artificial intelligence large language model needs to know, what does this Lambda consist of? There's tools in it. Is it calling tools? What can I accomplish with this Lambda? And there's event object, and there's a tool schema, and the event object should match the tool schema, because with this Lambda I could be calling a tool. It's one tool or another tool, and so this context object tells me what I'm trying to accomplish. And like I said, it's like when you call a Lambda, you have to make sure the event object has the right payload in it to do the right thing for the Lambda. Well, this is a little bit different because we're trying to abstract that out to be able to do some of this stuff automatically, intelligently, so I don't have to work so hard as a developer. So I've annotated my tools in my Lambda, let's say, and I've got this tool schema, and the question is, how does this thing get created? Does it get created automatically, etc. And we'll take a look at that. So let's get rid of this real quick. Okay, so now we didn't get the error here, which is really, really good. I did see this pip upgrade, and typically what I do is I go into code and I add this statement, and I run it. And I don't know why I have to do this. I've done this several times. It should be in my environment. And now I should not see that error when I install this again. Okay, let's go back to the images and take a look at this. Okay, so this is the next image. I got to determine what I'm looking at the images in the right order, and my notebook is an IAM notebook, so I'm just gonna look at what I think applies to IAM. So I expected to see all these diagrams in the notebook, but I didn't see them. So, but fortunately I did see something. Okay, so the agent calls the MCP tools. It uses IAM. It uses this AWS SIG v4 signed request. It uses a header to put my credentials in. IAM allows it. Then there's a gateway role, which allows the Lambda to call, and we have tools here. And so this is another image, and just so let's go back to this. Okay, so we're finished installing. Okay, now this next cell says set AWS credentials. If not, using SageMaker Notebook. Let's just see what this does, and let's just try to run it. So it did. You know, these I'm gonna hope that this pulls my credential file and uses it, because that's what the last tutorial did. But if I have to put my access key here and my key ID here, I'll find out later that it's not going to work. Okay, so now let's run this cell. And all it seems like what this cell did was say, I need to know where my utilities directory is. It might need this utils file down here. So I'm trying to define it so I could go reference it. I could do some debugging here and see what I'm pointing to. And certainly enough, I'm going to, let me just continue. If I have a problem, I'll address it. So right now here, it's reading the zip file. The zip file is right here. Reading code from the zip file, creating an IAM role. The gateway Lambda IAM role already exists because I created it before, let's say. Creating the Lambda function, it already exists because I ran this demo before. And now let's see what happens. This next cell is it's importing tools. Tools are showing up red. That's a little concerning to me, but I'm not going to worry about it until I see an error. Oh, by the way, this utilities here is really really used for the OAuth because it probably uses Cognito, and this utilities creates Cognito user pool and a client ID, etc. So I'm not getting errors here in this particular notebook. Just to point that out, so that clears up my confusion a little bit. Okay, so the notebook ran, the role exists, the policies, blah, 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 blah. Deleted the role and it recreated it. And Agentcore Gateway Role ARN. So it created this role. Here's my account number. Here's the role, Agentcore sample Lambda Gateway Role. Okay, so we'll take a look at how that works. Now I don't know why this is showing up like this. No module named Bodo3. I don't know why I'm getting these things here. Let's just continue running. These should not be showing up red. So now let's see what this did. This used Bodo to create a client and used Bedrock Agentcore Control. Now remember, Agentcore Control is used to control Agentcore. And I could do what I want, and basically what I do is I create a gateway, and I give it a role for the gateway. I tell it the IAM role. I define a protocol type, authorization type, and the description. This is an Agentcore gateway with an AWS Lambda target using Amazon IAM for Ingress Auth. Okay, so what does that mean? Hopefully it's taking my credentials off my desktop and it's using my account and going to my Amazon account and using that Amazon account and all the resources that it's creating and exist. So I haven't been on my Amazon account in days, and so whatever's being created there and running there, we'll find out from this notebook. So basically, what is the response? We're getting a response, and we're getting information associated with the response. But notice the code is printing the response, it's creating a response, getting the ID and the gateway URL. Here's the gateway URL, and notice it ends in MCP. So that's what we're calling. Any client code is going to call this thing to hit my Amazon system to do whatever it needs to do. And we are hitting Agentcore gateway with this URL. Okay, and why is it sleeping? I don't care. I've already talked longer than 10 seconds. Okay, now it creates a AWS Lambda target and transforms it into MCP tools. So let's look at this. There's a target config, and this is the schema that I'm talking about. This is the thing that for me is, where the hell is this and how do I get this to work? And here Amazon's giving it to me, so that's great, but I want this automatically generated based on my code, so I don't have to do any work to make sure that this is configured properly. But here's the Lambda target config. It's telling me I got a tool. Here's a payload, a tool, get ordered tool, update order tool. And with this tool, the order ID is required, and it's required for this tool as well. So it tells me that the input schema is an object, property is string, blah, blah, blah. But this is, for me, this is a thing that is what's concerning to me. Now, I could always make sure, if I go into Lambda, let's see, we're going to go into the Lambda, look at the code. But for me, it's like this schema needs to call this Lambda. This Lambda needs to be developed properly. And that's the hard part. That's the application part of what we're doing here. The notebook and all the Python code and the architecture and everything is important. But we need the schema, we need the code. So that is everything else is like infrastructure around it. So keep in mind that these tools are very simple. Might be very simple. They might be hard-coded. They have to call real APIs and real external systems and etc. So they're not going to be simple. So my interest is in the code. My interest is in this schema, because that's a big part of my AI system, calling these things and inspecting them, finding out the information. What should it call? How do I call it? What does it need? Etc. This is the most important part in my eyes. But let's move forward. So there's the here's the credential information, the gateway IAM role. It's the role we created for the gateway, the call Lambda. The target name is Lambda using SDK. Okay, and here's the response. We're creating the gateway target. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, so let's see what this thing did. It created it didn't tell me what it did. It didn't tell me here what it did. I don't see a file showing up over here. I'm a little bit confused. Let me try to let's just move forward. Okay, so create an IAM role to invoke the gateway. Okay, the below function creates or updates an IAM role that allows Agentcore to invoke the gateway. Okay, so basically what it's saying is that I need credentials to hit on the gateway ID. It configures a trust policy permitting the Bedrock Agentcore service and the calling IAM entity to use the role. So let's run it. Okay, so now I have a clearer picture of what's going on here. This is in my credential file. Oh, this is really great because it's giving me my account number, which I needed. Let me just copy that. It's given me the user of my account, which I called machine learning admin. I gave this a user admin permission, and I put the credential in my credential file. My credential file does not have my account number, so this ARN is giving me the account number and my admin user that I'm using. And what I'm doing right now is just taking a picture of it because I need that account number to log in. Okay, so basically, let's read this because this is really important. So this gateway invoke role, it already exists. It's obtaining trust and inline policy. This caller can now assume the role for the gateway invoke role. So this user in my credential, in my Amazon account, this user, my credentials in my credential file can now invoke the gateway. That's what it's saying. And so if I'm running client code, Python code on my in this notebook and it tries to connect to the gateway, it's going to work. That's the gist of it. Okay, so now it's ready. This can now invoke the Bedrock Agent Gateway. Role to invoke the gateway. Okay, so we ran that. Okay, now a strange agent calling MCP tools of the AWS Lambda Bedrock Agentcore. Okay, so you could read that. You could read this. We support it's supporting the MCP client SDKs to do what we need. So here we're installing. This is kind of weird that the installs here. Let me just run this. But basically, this is just as important, right? So the AWS IAM authentication is now supporting inbound requests to Agentcore, and it's important to note that the current open source MCP client SDKs have limited support for SIG v4 authentication, particularly for streamable HTTP connections. However, AWS has provided a solution through the Run Model Context Protocol service with AWS Lambda project, which includes a crucial extension for SIG v4 authentication with streaming HTTP connections. Okay, so basically what that means is my credentials on my Mac are going to be used and some credentials are going to be put in the header for HTTP streaming, and this is going to work, supposedly. So this is updating Strands agents with Strands agents tools, and it's importing strands from the Bedrock model. Let's run this. So notice there's a check mark here is finished. My model is using Nova Pro. Um, and I'm seeing that things were already installed. And basically, if I go up here, I could see in the library that certain things were installed. And if you go and check what has been installed and what it's saying is already installed, you'll see that it's there. Because a lot of these projects are using the same tools. Notice in PyCharm, I could also in PyCharm you could also go to Preferences, and you could see all the packages that I have installed, and see if they match the latest versions. Now, I could point and click and update something I want to here, but I'm not going to do that unless there's a problem, right? So here we have the check mark. We're completed with that. We're pointing to a Nova Pro. Our temperature, our model ID, and our temperature is given. What's really fascinating to me is that all this stuff is working. And when I try this outside of Jupyter Notebook and outside of my own projects, even copying, cloning repos, I have issues. And I do have to use ARNs instead of IDs, and it's just nice if this could work. And what's troubling me here is all these red lines, and I shouldn't have those, but it seems like things are working. So most likely, if I rerun this notebook, these errors are going to disappear. This says unresolved. This is in package strands. It's finding strands. Okay, so we're running this, and what it did was, let's see what the end of this looks like. Okay, so let's see what this did. Why is something going on down here? I don't know, but okay, so let's look at the cell really closely just to make sure we know what it's doing. And this is a little bit different for me because you could look at CloudFormation, you could look at CDK, you could look at Terraform, and this looks very hybrid to me. Like, there's a lot of stuff being done with Python, which is okay because it's more programmatic for me. I'd rather look at this than Terraform. There's no doubt about it. But let's just take a look at what's going on here in this file. So here we're getting we're importing agent, importing logging, MCP client, credentials. Notice Bodo Core credentials. We're importing credentials here. And this is where you'll see this. There might be some magic here where it's pulling my credentials from my file on my Mac. And we're importing this this thing here, which we could look at the code. It's really down here in this file here. But let's move on. So services called Bedrock Agentcore. We get the logger. We define a logger. Configuration. We won't see that until we're in Amazon looking at log files, so I'm not going to be there. Create the protocol, the streamable protocol. Here's my MCP URL, my access token string. These are all functions that are going to be called. And here's my IAM credentials. And notice it's taking my key and my secret out of my file eventually. And here I define the SIG v4 client to point to use my credentials and a URL and everything else like that. And this function gets the tools list. And this is where the magic of MCP comes in, okay? Because, intelligently, we're going to go get tools. The user could be asking for something, what's the time? And I need to see if there's a tool to tell time. I need to see if the user's asking for something else. I need to see if there's a tool to deliver that. Say the user asked for 2 + 2, what is the answer? If there's a calculator, I need to find out if there's any tools. So here, this get tools list, the MCP is helping us discover those tools in the Lambda based on the schema and the annotation, etc. Annotations for the tools. So let's see, call tools sync. So there's some functions in this file, and this is the run agent. This is the important thing, the run agent, where you're using the URL, the secrets, the session token, the service name, the region, etc. And so here we're getting all the tools. We're getting the tools list. Here we're instantiating an agent. We're using a certain model. We're using MCP. We might need to use a tool ID. There's a lot of interesting things happening here. And we're passing in the order number. So if the tool is get order, the tool is update order, we pass the order ID as the parameter. And so keep in mind that we're calling the tool and we're getting the result. And so the client itself has said, get me an order. The agent, the large language model, and the Lambda and the tools are delivering the result. So in order to do that, we're using a tool. We're using a Lambda. We give it the order ID. We get the information that's needed. Okay, so now this is another snippet of code, a cell, which is defining the access token and everything else, getting these credentials from my file. So let's take a look at it. Run it. Now, just so you know, I understand. Running notebooks and running snippets of code. It's really interesting because we're used to writing Node.js lambdas and doing real-time running of code and stuff like that. And we will do that with Python. But in order to do that, we have to go through this notebook and go step by step and accomplish what we need to accomplish, understand what Agentcore has to offer. And eventually we're going to run something that's going to use everything that's needed that we're producing, and basically it should work. So I'm looking at this. It's found the tool, get order tool, tools loaded, blah blah blah. To check the order of the status for order ID 123, I need to use this order tool. The tool requires the order ID parameter, which I will set to 123. Notice it's thinking here. It's doing something. The user itself is chatting. Get me the order information for order 123. It's chatting that. My backend system, Agentcore, my Lambda, Bedrock is is doing all this magic and using LLM to think about what it needs to do and what tool it needs to call and actually deliver the result. Okay, the exact response is the order ID is in shipping status. Great. Now, the other point here is I got a type error. The model schema got an unexpected keyword argument, generic origin, how to resolve. It's telling me it wants this package to be compatible. Restart the kernel once done. Good to know. I didn't need it for this demo, but yeah, I need to address these issues. So now I'm going to clean up, and I'm going to delete the gateway. So I'm it's importing these tools. Let's see if this works. So right now it looks like it's working. It's deleting my gateway. It's cleaning up this project. So I didn't even have to go onto Amazon to see what happened. I should go and give you a demo and see what happens on Amazon after this demo. But I already deleted the resources, and the reason why I don't want to be charged for anything. So reviewing this demo, this is not what I experienced when I first ran this. All these things that are showing red, now I'm going to do one more last thing before I quit this video. So I'm a little bit, there's just some concerns. One is I'm seeing these red things here, which I didn't see the first 2 times I ran this. The second thing is I'm not seeing any files produced over here. Now let me just go over here and try something. I'm going to try to search. So I'm going to find something in files. So what I'm going to do is let me do this. Let me look for streamable underscore HTTP. Oh, the reason, okay, so this was the file that we did not review. And I don't want to go through too much detail on this because there's a lot in these demos. But what I did was I searched for this file and I found it. And I think I'm looking at this file here. But usually when I do that, I see some of the files that are produced show up here. Now we didn't write any files in this notebook, so I'm having a little bit of trouble trying to figure out where things are being stored, if anything I should be able to see and any resources that are being used and stored. Okay, but anyway, I'm going to close this notebook and end this demo, and what we're going to do is let me see if I could do one more thing. Okay, so Lambda function code. Okay, so let's do this. I'll follow up in another video, and we'll take a look at the code and how it was annotated. So that's it for this video, and continue on some of these projects to try to figure out how we could learn as much as possible from these demos.